Good evening. Welcome to Airfix and Chill. Full panel tonight, folks. I think we can fit one more in. I think so. If I've sent the messages out to a few folks, if they want to pop in, they can. But yes, good evening. Tonight's subject is going to be far different than last week's. We're not even going to go down that road. All right, that's it. We parked that bus. And I've got the key, all right? So if you want to start that bus up again, we will another time. But I understand, some people were a bit very, well, I wouldn't say angry, but it wasn't a cup of tea. But sometimes we have to have these debates in life, else you won't know what's going on in the world. Right. So, and we've got James from Tabody Go, we've got Jim, we've got Ben, we've got John Alex Scale Modelling, we've got Zinzan, and we've got Luke from Black Rifle Model Works. And we have a guest in tonight because we're going to be talking about Kickstarters, kits, and Kotare. As you all know, they've announced on their website that they want to produce a Halifax. And they're doing it with crowdfunding, is where they ask people for the money first, then they go off and, after a few years, develop it, research development, design it, build it, and then sell it to us. That's the idea. But I got a chap here called Will Jane, and you know Will very well. He's been on Airfix and Chill before because he developed a company called Beacon Models. And they produce, they first produced 1/4 scale Spitfire and the Messerschmitt BF 109 or the ME 109, depending, which book you look at. And because I got to know him through Matt from Model Minutes and the Kickstarter, I thought it'd be great to get him on for a little bit of insight on how he views Kickstarters or crowdfunding can work for a company and how it cannot work. So good evening, Will. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
No worries. So as someone who's done crowdfunding, what's your take on crowdfunding?
That's a big question. Crowdfunding at its sort of simplest core kind of democratizes product development for small companies. So all it means is that when you've got a product that you want to make, no matter what it is, well, within reason, you can go, instead of going to, say, traditional funding sources like a bank or investors, venture capital or whatever, anything like that, instead you go straight to the people who you think would want to buy your product or support your project, whether it's like a film or I recently backed one for some boutique olive oil. It just looked fun, so I backed it. Some really crazy stuff. Or model kits. You can basically go to the people who you think would buy that and support it and would like it. Early adopters, as we call it, so people who are like really passionate and like new things. And you can offer them the product before it releases on the shelves, and they get a chance to get their hands on it first. Usually in exchange for perks, like perhaps an introductory price or little extra things. Like we did a couple of fun extras with our not the one we just done, but the one before. We had you got the tin mug and stuff like that. People said they wanted it, and we thought, well, why not? So we went to a promotional company and did it. And it's just something that's exclusive for those early supporters to sort of say thank you for making it possible to get these things, to get this project realized without having to owe a big bank money or take on investors who are going to want to stick their oar in and that kind of thing. So there's loads of different ways of doing it. So I used the platform called Kickstarter, which I expect a number of your viewers will be quite familiar with. That was one of the early crowdfunding sites that went really big. But there's also Indiegogo, Crowdfunder, and then you've got on the sort of more charitable side of things, like you've got a charity project, there's GoFundMe. So there's a number of web platforms that have come together to make an ecosystem where you can tell people about your project and give them ways to support it financially, and that's basically it, really. And it's we've seen some amazing projects come to life through that.
I have done Kickstarters before. Like I've got playing cards because that was the thing back in the day. people would design playing cards, and then if you paid, I think I paid £40, and they give me like 3 bricks of cards that which I was able to sell on the internet. You know, I used it for my own financial means, really, because I knew they would be a success. And once the Kickstarter finished, within about a year, I was able to sell them on because there were people who still wanted them.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing; it was all limited edition. You know, they were only going to do say 4,000. I had 36 packs of cards because there was like 12 in a brick, and I had 3 bricks worth for about 50, 60 quid, I think it was, and I was able to sell them on. But so I first got to know you and was kind of upset for you with the first round of Kickstarter, or should I say crowdfunding, with the original Spitfire and the Messerschmitt. What happened there? And I'm presuming it was a lesson learned, because you've had 2 really good Kickstarters that have flown through and have been successful for you.
Yeah, what went wrong there, it's really, the further I get away from it, the less I see it as a failure. And what was simple about it is that we asked for too much money. We wanted to make all the tools that we wanted to make at once. We wanted to pay for them outright, you know, just pay for it all in one big, huge lump and just like, there, it's done, which was just too big. Now, the level of support, I think we asked for about £40,000, which is what it would have cost us to make all the tools with the factory, get them to produce the kits, get all the decals made and all that stuff. And it's a lot of stuff that goes into it, as you all know. It's a lot of upfront cash needed. And I think we raised nearly 18,000, which now on Kickstarter, one of its unique, well, it's not unique, some of them do it, but basically if you don't raise all the money that you wanted, then you get nothing. So nobody's cards get charged. Now, Indiegogo, you've got an option to just raise as much as you can. Each platform kind of treats that differently, but Kickstarter, one of the things that's really nice about it for creators and backers is that it's all or nothing. So if you don't quite make it, then nobody loses anything. I mean, the creator loses a bit of their time and whatnot, but nobody ends up paying money for a substandard product because you couldn't afford to do it the way you wanted to do it. So you have to kind of think about what's achievable and what you can raise cash for without stalling, basically, without asking for too much when you're a completely new entity. Nobody had heard of us before. We had a couple of people who saw our renders on Instagram and Facebook, and you know, they liked them and they backed the campaign. And then Matt did his video. He just found us and did a video on us. I didn't even know Matt at that point. And that was huge. I think about, you know, probably 100 people backed the campaign because of that video. So, you know, eternal gratitude for Matt on that one. Oh, excuse me. My voice is already going.
You got 2 hours.
Gone without water. I'll have to pop out and get some in.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the first campaign. What we did is we sort of, obviously we didn't get any money because we didn't reach our goal. But we thought, right, we've done all this CAD work, all this design work, all these graphics, and we've put together this lovely looking campaign that we put a lot of work into. How can we still make this project happen? So we stripped it right back to like, okay, what is, and I'll use a startup term here, a minimum viable product. That is like, what can you make with the lowest investment that's still a tangible finished thing that you can give to your supporters without any compromises in what you were promising them. So originally we wanted to launch 10 kits. So basically you've got the two main flagship products, which are the Spitfire Mark 1, which is the Battle of Britain Spitfire, as I'm sure you all know, and the Messerschmitt 109E, and then 8 variants of those 2 aircraft, so like the Spitfire Mark 2, the Messerschmitt E7, the Trop, that kind of thing. So in the end, we said, right, what if we just did a Spitfire and a Messerschmitt in a box as a dogfight set and release that, and that's all we do for now. And so we went back to our backers and we emailed everyone and said, hey, if we put this up on our website as a pre-order, would you back it? You know, would you buy it? And about half of the people who backed the Kickstarter campaign then bought pre-orders, which was obviously, we made a lot less money through that, but it was just enough to get those things made.
Yeah.
And we sent them all out. We had a couple left over to sell. And then we thought about, right, okay, well, what do we do next? So if we'd started with that, if I'd been more experienced, I would have thought about, right, okay, what's a what's a minimum viable product that I can make to get a plastic model company off the ground. And as much as it would be lovely to do, you know, like a 1 30-second short Sunderland or something insane and wonderful that I'm sure we'd all, you know, love to have in our stash, it's just not realistic when you're a brand new company and an unknown quantity with no social proof, as we call it, you know, like trust. So yeah, that was it initially felt like a painful lesson, but immediately that got turned into sort of feelings of like, oh, actually no, we can do this, and we've had to think about it, and you know, we learned really valuable lessons very quickly and turned it into success. And that meant the second Kickstarter we did, where we said, okay, we're back. We've got those first 2 tools done, and we put all of the spare parts, all the variant parts on the frames anyway when we tooled, because it didn't really cost anything extra. We said, now we're going to do the other kits that we wanted to do. So the double boxing of the Spitfire, the double boxing of the Messerschmitt, and the 8 variant kits. So we actually ended up with 11 combinations of Spitfire and Messerschmitt now, which is probably enough Spitfires and Messerschmitts for any model company, you know. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and we've watched other people going through the same process and navigating the same challenges and pitfalls that we did. And I'm at the point now where I think that if manufacturers started taking these platforms quite seriously, it would reduce the risk for everybody involved, because like I said, if you don't meet your funding goal, you can say, you know, I could say tomorrow, oh, I'm going to do a 1/24 scale fairy battle, you know, who's going to buy it? And I'll put it on Kickstarter, and I'll evidence that we've taken it seriously and that we've done some work and some research, and we know the details of the product that we're going to be offering, and we can make a to use another marketing term, like a value proposition is what they call it, you know, like just really selling it to people. We'd know how to do that. And if we didn't make the money, that doesn't matter. Nobody's losing their money, because if we didn't make it, nobody's cards get charged. We put some time into R&D, but that's like, you know, you've got to take some risk, but it's very low risk compared to putting $80,000 into tooling, like with a tool maker in Hong Kong or something. And one of the best ones, you know, a lot of them are out there now doing incredible work, or like maybe in the Czech Republic or something. It'd be the worst thing ever if you took out massive bank loans, funded all that tooling, and then nobody wanted, you know, what you bought. So in a way, you can kind of like gauge the appetite of the market for any particular model idea that way. So I just think it's a wonderful thing. Once you get the hang of it, it's good for manufacturers, it's good for modelers, it's good for Kickstarter or Crowdfunder or Indiegogo, because they take 5% of the total money raised, so they do all right out of these things. And then there's another 5% for Stripe fees, payment processing. So you lose 10% right away. And again, you've got to factor these things in. You know, it's not easy. And unfortunately, there's no cheat sheet for Kickstarters, because each one is kind of unique, especially if you're, you know, a new industry. Now, if I was doing a board game, I could go to a company that specializes in helping people get their board game ideas off the ground and then fulfills their Kickstarter. So we worked with one who did our fulfillment initially. They were really good, but in the end we thought, you know what, we can probably do this ourselves now, and we'd gone with them as far as we wanted to. I think they were called Games Quest, and they were really good. And you can basically go to them with a board game idea, because that's so common on Kickstarter. You know, there's loads of board games, and they'll say, right, well, here's what you need to do. Here's how you run a social media campaign. Here's how you build a brand. Here's how you engage with board game players to build yourself that fan base that you really need. But with scale models, there's nothing. Almost no scale model Kickstarters at all. The closest we've got is miniatures Kickstarters for tabletop minis and Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing, which is a different market to the kind of people that we deal with. So yeah, that's make a short story long.
Yeah, that's fine. No, that's really interesting. So was there anything negative about doing a Kickstarter? I'm saying Kickstarter here because crowdfunding can take all shapes and forms. And when we go and talk about Kotare or Kotare, however you want to call it, they've gone in-house with that. What is there the negative side, positive side? So would you have done a crowdfunder on like your own website? Would it have worked better, or was the Kickstarter the way to go? Is it more dynamic doing it through Kickstarter?
Well, we did both, because obviously after the first Kickstarter didn't fund, then we did our own crowdfunding drive through our website. Now, the disadvantage to the backers in placing a pre-order on a website directly is that even though they haven't raised the money they need, they've got your money and it's kind of out of your hands now. So people trusted us with their money. Now, granted, we were only asking for about £15 a kit, which it's not a huge gamble really.
No, it wasn't. It was, and you got your poster with it as well, and you threw in cartograph decals, and you even had the forbidden symbol as well. So what was there not to like? You know what I mean? It was.
Well, we talked to people and we said, like, if we did this, what would you want to see out of it? Like the poster is really, it's my favorite extra, even though it's probably the cheapest to make. So that's why everybody gets one, is because it doesn't cost us that much. We get a local printer here in Coventry to print them, really high quality prints on nice stock, so it frames nicely in a standard like IKEA frame that you can buy. And, it's just our way of saying thank you. But yeah, it's I suppose that doing it website versus Kickstarter. With Kickstarter, you have from the backer side, you have that guarantee that if the money isn't raised, you won't be charged. So, and if the money is raised, then you'd hope that the person who's then got your money is going to actually know how to spend it properly. So, if it's a new company, that's why we went in asking for too much, and maybe that put a couple of people off, even though a lot of people were very keen. But yeah, because I just think we were able to do it because the 144 crowd is small but very, very enthusiastic, and because our asking price was quite low. Because what's your average bomber in 172nd now, getting on for 50-60 quid, give or take, maybe
easy
more?
Yeah 48 57. Were you talking 148 scale here, are you, or?
Well, whatever. I mean, just a large. If we've done a large model kit, like a big scale that required big, expensive tools, and the costs do go up very, very quickly, people might have been less willing to give us that direct pre-order on the website because we were completely unknown quantity. Nobody. We'd never released a model before. Whereas with Kickstarter, at least that if the campaign doesn't succeed, nobody loses anything. From the manufacturer side, the advantage of doing a Kickstarter, well, this is my experience, the advantage of doing a Kickstarter versus doing a sort of an in-house on your own website pre-order style crowdfunding campaign is that Kickstarter is, as a brand, quite well established now. Generally, people get the stuff they pledged for. We've had some disasters. I've backed a couple of 3D printing Kickstarters. The worst one was when I lost £800. Never saw a sausage out of it. Don't know where Alworks went with my Morpheus Delta 3D printer. If you're out there, guys, well, good luck to you. But
really, you got money on that, did you?
Oh, everybody did. I know there's been tons. There was one, I can't remember the name of it, but the guy took all the money and built a house with it. that was that. He got busted for fraud, and rightly so. But by and large, 99% of these campaigns are just done by people like me, who are maybe a designer or an artist or a craftsperson or a storyteller or a filmmaker, who just really want to bring what's inside them out into the world and need the help to do it. And they've got the skills to make it happen once they've got a bit of budget. So people see a Kickstarter, and the people who are familiar with Kickstarter or Indiegogo or crowdfunding, whichever platform you want to talk about, there's that feeling of like, okay, I can trust these people a little bit better, because if Kickstarter's approved the campaign, then at the very least that they're a verified personal company, because you have to submit your company details or your passport, or you have to prove that you're a real person who's accountable to Kickstarter before they'll even launch your campaign. They have to then scrutinize your campaign page before you launch it. So they're like, well, is this offer fair? If I'm saying, oh, buy a Ferrari for 50 quid, that's probably spurious, So they have to use their judgment as expert, auditors almost on their staff, to check whether campaigns are properly structured and meet their measures of quality to represent their brand, and to be unleashed into the wild, on their website.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes wrong, and they do, in fairness, at least on Kickstarter, which is the one I'm most familiar with, they do make it very clear that there's no guarantee that you'll get your stuff, and not to risk any money that you can't afford to lose, basically. It isn't gambling, but you're definitely taking a risk. You know, in a way, it is a form of investing in a way. You know, like I've been burned. You know, I've lost money on Kickstarters, like 1 or 2. I've backed, well, under my current account, I've backed 10, but my wife and I have backed dozens and dozens, because there's loads of like gaming Kickstarters and nerd stuff that we want. So, you know, we are very experienced backers. And by and large, we've had fantastic experiences with it. Like my wife supported the Dreamfall game. They wanted to make a final ending to that story, or an export. Anyway, and I watched her play it, and I was like, this is from a Kickstarter, and you know, this is just a couple of thousand people coming together to make this game happen, and it was really good. You know, it looked every bit as good as a AAA title to me. You know, the music was great. She got a special like limited edition CD. It was lovely. So that's like 99% of the Kickstarters that get launched, at least on Kickstarter, result in very happy backers and creators, and I just think that's fantastic.
Brilliant. Right. Okay. Let's get to the crux of it. After hearing all that about how good crowdfunding is for a particular subject, let's have a little chat about the this one here that we added to the stage. So, Kotare this week have announced that they are looking into developing tooling for the Handley page Halifax in a scale that I wouldn't put with Kotare. But that doesn't mean they can't do it. And they're looking at the 148 scale. Now, they're doing a pre-order at the moment, and I'm just going to go through some of the facts, okay? So look at the page. Pre-order is now available from the 26th of August, so it was last week. And there is shipping is expected during the second quarter of 2028. So there's, whoa, what are you looking at? So second quarter of, so what's second quarter? Is that second quarter? So it's November, December, January, February, March, April will be first quarter. May, June sort of time, I'm guessing, if that's second quarter. So that's, you know, that kind of, you know, if you don't understand how quarters work in business, that, you know, you may be a bit, you know, you may think second quarter is more Easter time. It's not. It's more in the summertime. Pre-order deposit payment in full, 100% refund available on request up until actual shipping date. Now, US dollar 185 to pre-order this kit, and then they're giving you some of the what you're going to get if you pre-order now and willing to wait for 3 years. All orders received will receive membership of Project Halifax, pre-order before release and receive 2 beautiful and highly collectible art prints from Darryl Legg, which is including the teaser painting seen here, which is this one here. So if I just bang on that, you can see that is it. They have actually changed it, because originally at the bottom here it said Halifax, not Halifax, which I thought was quite interesting. So you're going to be getting that. There'll be 3D print resin accessory to be decided by the Project Halifax members, and a unique lapel pin. The first 1,000 purchases will have their names published in the instruction manual. 20 lucky modelers from the first 500 purchasers will randomly be drawn and given the chance to build and critique T2 test shot samples. Only available direct from KotareModels.com, and it will be high quality injection molded plastic scale model kit set requiring assembly and paint. Exclusive limited edition. This is a limited edition of 7,000 numbered models, and models 0001 and 7,000 will be auctioned off to support the Big Buddy charity of New Zealand. Highly commendable that. This model will never be re-released in this form and only available from the website. And then they talk about this idea of becoming a member of Project Halifax. Now, Just quickly, it's saying here it's a new initiative in kit set development for Halifax enthusiasts. You can help shape the model from day one. As a member, you'll have exclusive invitation to join the Kotare design team, so you'll be part of the team, including lead designer Darren Middlehall, and be a pioneer in design, contribute ideas, photographs, drawings, and feedback in multiple ways, and be kept up to date on the progress of the model like never before. You'll have the opportunity to influence every detail. So, including like surface treatment, rivets, oil canning or smooth panels, color schemes, squadron markings, engine options, including one or two or none. So was there two engine designs on that one? Was there? What were they, James? You would know. What engines was in the Halifax?
Merlin,
Bristol Pegasus.
Merlins and Pegasus, was it?
No, sorry, not the Pegasus. What is it? A Bristol radial engine, anyway.
Yeah, it was one of them, wasn't it? Was it the Centauri? Yeah. No, it wasn't Centauri, was it? No, it was. I can't think what it is.
The later one that had the radials, wasn't it?
Pardon, sorry.
The B1 had a radial, the B2 had a Merlin, and the B3 had a radial again. So, but the thing is,
it's the B3, the classic one for me.
Hercules is the name.
Hercules, that's it.
Hercules, well done.
Hercules, yeah. Is that the same in the Bowfighter?
Yeah. Yeah, same as. And then you've got the community access, which will probably be a Discord channel, which costs fuck all to do anyway. A Discord, anyone can do a Discord. Members of Project Average will get entry to private channels and live events, exclusive Facebook group and forum access, email monthly updates, quarterly online question and answers with Darryl Middleton and Kotare owner Mark Robson, special sessions online and in person at major modelling conventions, regular updates on design accuracy and product timelines. So that's all you get in this. So me being me, because I'm nosy, I went and had a look at pricing. So I ordered it. Well, I didn't order it. I went to the point of paying for PayPal. And this is what it comes out with. But I've done a bigger one here. This is the bigger one. So if you are buying it in this country, it's $185 US. The shipping is 45 and 38 cents shipping. And then the VAT on top of that is $46.08. So the order total will be $276.46. So conversion using the exchange rate of today, and as you can see, it's gone up a little bit, so you're lucky. You will be paying £204.14 in pounds sterling if you want to order this kit now. It's 148 now. Looking at it, I think if you're going by the scale, the Halifax would be 60. No, was it? It's 60. So 69 centimeters would be the. So 66 centimeters will be the width of the plane, the Halifax.
About 2 feet.
So 66 that. And then I think it worked out that it'll be 50% bigger than the Spitfire in 124 scale from Airfix at the moment, which is £100 at the moment. So yeah. Now, just looking at this, I thought it was quite interesting because I don't think you can see this well enough, but I'll put it up anyway. If you look at the Handley page, Halifax, which is in pink at the top, and then you've got the Avro Lancaster, which is in blue at the bottom. There's not a lot of difference in size. The Halifax is a little bit bigger because of the turret on the front, but basically it's the same length as the Lancaster, and it's a bit smaller than the short Sterling. Okay, so that gives you an idea of scale. I'm trying to get as much information as I can before we start discussing this.
Yeah.
And I hope it's helping. If it isn't, tell me and I'll stop doing it. But so you're looking at scale-wise, size-wise, average. Now, the average price I've seen for Hong Kong models with their 148 is £119 for their version of the Lancaster. And that is a very, very highly detailed kit.
Mm.
And what I was talking to others this week, Halifax is a more of a basic design. Apparently, the Hong Kong models one does come with 4 engines in it. So you can build up the 4 engines if you wish. Kotare, as I was saying, they've not been one for doing engines, have they? The Messerschmitt doesn't come with an engine, does it?
No.
The Spitfire doesn't come with an engine.
No.
So I'm just putting this out there. They may decide to put engines in it, but I'm sure that they will be budgeting this because at £200 odd, that's a lot of money for the average 1/32 scale Lancaster is around that £100 mark. Do you see where I'm coming from here?
Yeah.
And I understand, $185. If you equated that back to pounds in England, that would be 135, 140 quid. Back of a bag packet maths. One thing I will say, I'm going to give you my opinion straight away on this, and then we can then carry on from this. All they are doing is putting a flag in the ground to say we are producing, or we're going to look at producing a Halifax.
Mhm.
They're not guaranteeing anything here. They're giving the options of what they want to do. I think personally, it's like a dog pissing on the park bench. They're telling everybody else we're going to do a Halifax, and it's going to kind of upset, I think, the idea of how we get scale models now. Because at the moment, everybody's very secretive on what they're going to produce that year, aren't they? Airfix, is as bad as Apple. I get sniffs and stuff, but I hear little tinkerings. But I've been wrong on so many occasions, thinking they're going to be releasing something and they haven't. They're not even looking at it, And some things I've been right with because I've got, after so many years of following Airfix, you can see particular patterns forming. And that's it. But they have all they've done here is put a flag in the sand and saying we're going to produce a Halifax, and it's kind of put out a message saying other scale model manufacturers bugger off. We're doing this, okay, in 148. Doesn't stop any other manufacturers doing it in 172.
Yeah.
As I said, and basically what I've seen here, there's no CAD images. There's no research gone into this. They're asking for pictures and ideas. They're trying to build a team up of other people outside to build this thing. Now I'm doing negative now, okay?
Yeah.
So you can understand. I'm playing devil's advocate here because these are the sort of thoughts I've been having on what other people are arguing about.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, 3 years is a very, very long time. And one other thing is just put it out there. Do you know of a Halifax that could be scanned as an accurate representation?
There's one at
Yorkshire Air Museum.
Europe, isn't it?
No, it's
Yeah.
not. It's Yorkshire. Was it? No,
The
Yorkshire
thing is, all the
is a
Halifax
Frankenstein.
is in existence
There's
are
no.
Frankenstein kit planes.
They're all Frankensteins. The one in America, the wings are from a different beast altogether on there to make it look complete. The one in London was brought up from the river, wasn't it? And they basically have just left it in that unrestored state. There is no Halifaxes out there. I think they could actually scan.
Yeah, but just being I mean, is it a Frankenstein kit or like the Halifax in Yorkshire as per its different marks of fuselage and wing and engines put together, or is it just the fact it's multiple airframes of the same type put together? Because if it's multiple airframes of the same type, you can still scan it. Whereas if it's, I don't know, a Mark 1 Fuzz but a Mark 3 wing and a Mark 2 engine, then yeah, you've got problems.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
James, this is what I was under the impression. JCB James said only one Halifax, but it's a mix of leftover bits.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it's multiple, if it's a single type but multiple airframes, you can scan that. It's the fact if it's a mixed type would be the problem.
It depends what area of the aircraft that you actually need the scan data from, because it's very unlikely that you're going to scan the entire aircraft and use that as 100% of the basis for your design work. Usually, what I would use scanning for is if the engine cowling, for example, on the Spitfire, it's not as simple as it looks. And if you've got a good scan of a Mark 1, or early Merlin engine Spitfire cowling, it makes it a hell of a lot easier. But the rest, there's good drawings out there that'll be perfectly adequate to draw CAD up from. So it might not be a disaster if it is a Franken Halifax, because as long as it gives them the bit that they want, they can isolate that part of the scan data. They probably wouldn't even bother scanning the whole thing because that's a lot of work and very expensive. They'd probably just scan that section of it that they needed, and then the rest of the design work would be coming from what one would hope would be well researched, well sourced drawings. For example, we went to the Bolt and Paul Association, and they very kindly gave us as much information for our Bolt and Paul Defiant that's on ice for the moment that they gave Airfix. Now Airfix has a lot of stuff that they gathered themselves as well, but you can't really say any fairer than that. So you hope that even if the scanning might be a bit patchy, it would help them solve their design problems, and then they could just use good drawings for the rest of it.
Just now, we're going to move on to the positives. For me with Kotare, when they release a kit, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic kit. I think that they got the pricing right with the Spitfire, the 32nd scale. But until Airfix brought out the 124th Spitfire with the completed engine in it, so it kind of but putting that Kotare kit together, what the people I've seen build it, they can't praise it enough of being a fantastic 132nd scale thing. When it comes to pricing of the Halifax, I think that if you look at the Airfix Mosquito, size-wise, the 124th, I think that's 69 centimeters width, 66. And if they release that Mosquito now, I wouldn't think you'll get shy less of £200 if Airfix had to release that kit now because of how much plastic is in it. The instructions are fantastic from Kotare because it's actually a journey, not just how to build it. It explains, proper good pictures. But yeah, so those are the things I'm putting out there, and it's up to you guys now. What's your take on it? Go on then, Luke. You may have some thoughts on this. What do you think about this?
I heard about it yesterday, Avon, but I didn't know any detail about what it was that Kotare were proposing. So today I've done some reading and etc. etc. Now, World War II aircraft, not my thing. I don't have that passion for World War II subjects generally. But if someone does, now Kotare have an amazing pedigree. The lead designer that's involved in this project is world renowned.
Yeah.
They're not only offering the pre-order for a model kit. That's not what they're doing. Yes, they're going to produce a model kit, but you just said it. They're offering people a journey. They can be involved in that whole process from start to finish. Yes, it's going to take 3 years, but that's how long a model kit takes. Design, and it just is. They can't just say, oh, well, we've done this bit, now you can get involved. What they're saying is we're at ground zero.
Yeah.
You can now, for what I think is a fairly reasonable price, I don't think you can compare what they're offering and the journey. And if you're a Halifax enthusiast, this is gold dust.
Yes.
Because you can be involved in the production process right from day one.
Yes.
You can't then compare it to an Airfix 24 scale Spitfire. Yes, okay, it's a bigger scale. Yes, it's half the price. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. No one buying an Airfix 24 scale Spitfire has been involved in the design process, has had any input whatsoever. And I think Will's absolutely right. Yes, there may be only one aircraft that's kind of cobbled together from several, but decent designers aren't scanning the whole aircraft.
Yeah.
They're going off highly researched blueprints and design drawings from back in the day, and then, like Will said, they'll scan maybe individual bits because obviously we've moved on in time and technology has increased, etc., etc. So I actually think that what Kotare are doing is offering Halifax enthusiasts, the and modelers, the absolute pinnacle of the hobby for a relatively reasonable price point.
Just playing as I say, I'm doing devil's advocate tonight, so okay, I'm just putting it out there. The comment I got was from a good 5 or 6 people. As you know, I've been on the phone a lot today talking about it, trying to get feelers out. And I was going to speak to Nigel, but I didn't get a chance because I've run out of time. But and I wish he was on. Somebody said that the HK models 148 Lancaster is the supreme, is the one to build. It is accurate, it's very good, it's brilliant kit, and it's £100. It's got 4 engines in it. You know, there's a lot of detail in it, and you know, and going by size of everything. And it was only, I think it was only tooled a couple of years ago.
But I think that's the
£200.
That's the mistake people will make when they look at the price point. Because if you're buying a HK Lancaster, which is a fantastic kit, and it's bigger, and you know the plastic's good, everything's good about that kit. No one's denying that. But what you haven't been involved in is that project from day one. You haven't been involved in the process. So when should this come to fruition, you're going to get a Kotare Halifax, which is going to be good. They've got the pedigree. We know it's going to be good. But when you get that box, you know that you've been involved in that process right from day one. And your involvement might be quite significant. You might be one of the lucky 20 that gets to build a test shot. You might go on quarterly meetings with the chief designer. And because if you're a Halifax enthusiast, you're going to know a lot about that aircraft. And that's what they're offering. They're not saying, here's a pre-order, and in 3 years' time, we're going to send you a box full of plastic. What they're saying is, if you spend your money now, you're going to be involved in this whole process. That's what they're selling. And I don't know of any other manufacturer that has ever done that before.
We didn't do that, like from zero.
Literally from day one, there's not even any drawings, there's no CAD images, there's nothing.
No.
They're opening it out to the enthusiast community and saying, we want to do this. Yes, we need your help because it's an ambitious project by anyone's estimation. But you can have the opportunity to be involved in it. Now, as modelers, how often it's kind of, if you're very into your scale modeling and stuff, we would all love, whatever subject it may be, we would all love to be involved in the design and production of our particular subject matter that we love. We would love that and to be involved in that process. But for 99% of the community, that's out of reach.
Yeah, it is.
What Kotare are doing is making that a possibility. If you're a Halifax enthusiast or you're a World War II bomber enthusiast, they're making that a possibility for a very, very reasonable price. And I think that's their USP right there.
Reward.
You've got that absolutely spot on there. I wrote a word down about 5 minutes ago. Exclusivity.
That's what they're creating that. They're
That's
creating.
it's precisely what it is. Now, you know, people can talk about, you know, funding projects in terms of Kickstarters, and it's a very good way of doing this. But Kickstarter versus website, it's a matter of trust. I think it boils down to that. And this isn't as if Kotare have just suddenly decided to do this out of nowhere. They have a reputation that goes back several years, well, 2 years now. I built their first model. I've got the Mark I early in my collection. I will get this one. There's no question about that. I will get this one because there is a journey involved in this, and actually I learned more about Spitfires building the Kotare than I did in almost any other situation. I think I would learn something about a Handley Page Halifax for that same reason. And I think, you know, on the one side there's that. On the other side, I think 7,000 units. Yeah, I think that's ambitious.
I think it's very ambitious.
You know, maybe I might be inclined to reduce it to 5,000, but there is always that option that they have in order to, you know, make the project, shall we say, worthwhile. But they're not seeking. I suspect these people at Kotare have thought about this quite hard, and they've done their maths quite hard. Any company, for example, who works across borders will be quite used to hedging against the dollar or the pound, and taking care of volatility of currency. So they might have probably looked forward on that anyway. But they will actually be asking, I suspect, for a proportion of the funding, shall we say, up front, but they will be funding the larger part of it themselves, I would suspect. So I think that spending $185 or whatever it is,
It's not though.
Well, spending 200 and whatever it is, you know,
210 quid, say, depending on
210 quid. That's actually a fairly low risk in my view. I see it that way. You know, the company's strong. It's got a very good name in the marketplace. You know, there's no question about that. No one would deny that. The value decision is not in whether it's got 1, 2, 3, or 4 engines. That's meaningless in my view. The value decision is in, I get to talk to the designer about this. I get to be able to say, I've discovered this picture. Have you seen this? Oh, you haven't. Oh, right. Well, perhaps I should send it to you then.
As I said, the query I have is that they've put out there they're going to do a Halifax. Whenever I've seen a crowdfunding, they have some sort of portfolio of what they've researched on, what they're looking at, maybe some CAD renderings or some sort of 3D print of part of it, just to show willing. And you've not got that with this kit.
No, that's true.
But isn't that kind of the USP?
No,
isn't that kind of the point?
I'll say a thing about that, actually. I will say a thing about that.
Yeah.
If you look at the technical specifications of a loudspeaker, not one of those specifications will tell you how good that loudspeaker will sound. And in the same way, you can look at a CAD rendering, but it won't tell you what sort of quality of kit you're going to get. No, there's nothing that will tell you that.
100%.
Yeah, and that's true even for designers. Like, we send the CAD off, and we've done our best using our experience and knowledge to do something that we think will tool really well. But ultimately, it's almost in the lap of the gods at that point. You know, what comes back from the test shots, it's like, you hope it's going to be what you envisioned when you were thinking, how do I want this to feel in my hand? And sometimes it doesn't. So that's why 3D printed prototypes can be a good middle ground. But even that, like, we had problems with the panel lines on our Spitfire, especially. people said they were a little bit deep and wide, which is not an unfair criticism, to be fair, and it's something that we're trying to work on as in future kits. But the problem is that because a 3D printer, when it's printing, the edges of the panel lines are perfectly square because it's very high resolution.
Yeah.
Whereas when we were cutting it at the tool makers, now we're using traditional CNC machining with ball end cutters, so there's a slight radius, and that slight radius is enough to give the effect of a wider panel line.
Yeah.
So even we didn't anticipate that. So when we got the plastic back, it looked different to the CAD, it looked different to the 3D prints. And although we were still like, okay, we're happy enough, we can release this, it was identified as like people are going to moan about that, and they did, and rightly so. And that's part of the experience of developing model kits.
Yeah. Moss, can I chime in on the Kotare?
Yeah.
So for me the allure is really high, and for me the risk is low, right? So I'm going to pre-order one as soon as they set up a system to take my money, because Jim and I would be in the same situation here in the States. Of course, we have. I do not want to go down on this tangent, but the tariffs. No, so we're leaving that. So it's.
He said the T word.
I've been in contact with Kotare, and they're like, we're going to work it out a couple weeks or whatever, because I'm like, I really want to. So, anyways, so there's high risk, so low risk, high reward, right? So that's the ultimate. And so the reward on this, I think, is going to be really great. So it's Kotare, right? I've been really waiting to do a Kotare. It's a really unique subject for everybody, especially me, as a Halifax. As Luke mentioned, there's that whole journey, right? That's going to go on in the next, 2.5 years or whatever. But when this comes out, when this kit gets released, it's going to be hot. It's going to be, everybody's going to want to be doing it. Everybody's going to want to have it. It's going to be big on the channel. So that's the reward. And you can cancel up to, when they ship. So, I can't wait to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You get the first 1,000, they get their name, whatever. So for content creators, this is going to be a gold mine, I think. Yeah.
I just want to quickly jump into the chat because there has been some interesting comments. George Taylor, question: do you think Kotare chose the Mark II because the engines aren't visible, as opposed to the Mark I and Mark III with the radial engines that are visible? We don't know. They are discussing, as I said at the beginning, that they say, talking about the engines, which engines do they do? So whether that is to do with that, I don't know. Comment: there is a Halifax at Yorkshire Air Museum. I've seen it. You may have seen it, mate, but it's not an accurate representation. It's a mishmash of all sorts of parts to get that looking good. I think the level of involvement is a bit overestimated here. You only need 2 to 4 really knowledgeable people. Otherwise, it's going to be committed to death, overcommitted to death. Okay,
Disagree 100%.
What's that? Sorry.
Disagree 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Can I jump in with an observation there?
Yeah, go on.
So, in my view, if there's anything we've learned from the post-pandemic landscape of the internet, a lot of companies and people or content creators have realized there is real value in allowing your customers, your fans, your champions sort of into your studio, so to speak. And people are well, evidently willing to pay a premium for that, whether it's like I said, filmmakers or writers or anything like that, like feeling involved with the creative process, having a window into that. I couldn't agree more with what Luke was saying. If you think of product design, what Kotare have got here, the goods that they're selling is a model kit, but the product is an experience of being involved in that development of the model kit and that emotional journey that you're going to take with them. As cheesy as that sounds, chances are, if you think that sounds cheesy, totally fair. It just probably means that Kotare aren't aiming this at you. That's all it means.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not competing with the, I just want a plastic in a box and I don't care about it. I just want to build it in a month, put it on a shelf, move on to the next thing. Nothing wrong with that at all, but it's not the motivation they're targeting with this campaign. And I think they've been extremely smart to take this direction and to pitch it the way they have, as an experience, as a journey, rather than just being another airdropped plastic kit filling a niche in the market.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, I understand.
Can I just type in here, please, if I may? Richard Alexander, who works for Kotare, is their research guy at Kotare, who is ex-Wingnut Wings. That guy is anal about the quality of test shots and stuff. We all know that companies will get test shots done and let them go. You know, when they were working on the Fokker DR1, which ended up being a main kit, Richard Alexander rejected 5 lots of test shots for that kit. He is so anal on accuracy. Now, Richard Alexander is now part of Kotare, and we all know that the Spitfires that they have released are probably the most accurate Spitfire kits on the planet. They have the best instruction manuals of any Spitfire kits on the planet. Forget scales, forget about Mark 9s and engines and all that stuff. Do you not think that it's worth investing in this project? Because he is going to make this thing. I mean, not only is he anal, he's produced a book on the Lancaster that is probably the best Lancaster book you can buy, and it's only got 75 pages. It's Wing Leaders Photo Archive number 5 if you want to go and get it. He is now asking other people to help him out with researching this plane. This kit is going to be absolutely stunning. The manual is going to be absolutely stunning. And like you said, I've invested 200 odd quid. I don't care. It's absolutely worth the money just to support Kotare, because they're a fantastic company.
Yeah. And I mean, to go back to that comment, sorry, I'll just jump in here then I'll shut up. To go back to the comment about the danger is it will be overcommitted. So all these people with involvement. Ultimately, Will's the designer, I'm not. Will understands the design process. Now, if you look at the pedigree, as Nigel was saying, of the company, the lead designer, the researcher, ultimately, they're going to have the final say because they understand the process. Me as a modeler, if the Halifax was my thing and I was going to pull the trigger, I'm not, because it's not my thing. But if I was, I'm not a designer. So you have to bear that in mind. Will's absolutely right. It's not about being involved. It's about feeling involved.
Yeah.
And that's what they're selling. And that is priceless. You know, for Halifax enthusiasts, if it was 300 quid, they'd probably spend it. They would, because it's that feeling that they're chasing that you don't get when you go into a model shop and buy a box full of plastic. As Will said, put it together in a month and it goes on your shelf and you don't think about it again.
Yeah.
They're selling a feeling, and that's rare in this hobby, really rare.
Question. Involvement sounds great. Don't want to sound cynical, but how much input will each customer get? Will one person have more input than the other? Which is why there'd be a huge amount of moderation involved in that, I guess.
Richard doesn't work like that. I've had countless emails exchanged backwards and forwards when the Border Model Lancaster came out. And Richard brought out that book, the Wing Leader Production number 5. And I questioned him on a lot of the things he said in that book. And there was always something to back up what he was saying. And then there was also stuff that we ended up, we'll have to agree to disagree, because neither of us could actually prove.
Yeah.
So when you say about not enough people, it's like Alt said about only 2 or 3 people have involvement. You know, I can tell you a perfect example now. People will say there is no way that the pilot of the Lancaster ever had his parachute attached to the back of his seat. He always sat on his seat. And that's why the border models kit is crap, because they got a cushion in the seat. Right? There is a video on YouTube that anyone can go and watch now. And the flight engineer, it's a very old 1970s video. He said, "Oh, blimey, yeah, of course. If we got hit, my first job was to grab the pilot's chute off the back of his seat and hand it to him before I put mine on." There's a guy who was actually in the bloody thing, flying in the Second World War.
Yeah.
There's people, "Oh, no, you're wrong because they didn't do it." And that is where Kotare are asking for the people to come and tell them what actually happened, what was going on, what was the situation.
But
and that's
Kotare also, I was going to say, Kotare are also clever in this because they are marketing it as it's not plastic, it's an experience.
Yes.
And by leveraging free research effectively, because it's quite a clever way of going, you can be involved. Research costs money, it costs time. If you've got a community who feel like they're being involved, they're going to feel like they have a bit, they're going to work for you because they want that product to be the best. And for example, I don't think there is, but say there was a SIG dedicated like there is to the Jaguar or the Harrier to the Halifax, they'll be the first people to throw the money at them, and they've probably got document after document or file after file on the Halifax, to which maybe the researchers don't have. And just even simply submitting those documents, you'll feel part of that process.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people have got sort of like their grandparents were Halifax pilots. So hopefully they've got photographs.
And this is exactly the
so
process that we've been through.
This idea of bringing in, shall we say, design help from out in the world is really not a new one. It's been around for a very long time. And I could remind viewers of a gentleman called Linus Torvald, who developed Linux all those years ago. He used to work for Unix, and what he did with Linux was wrote the framework program and said, right, this works. If you want to make an improvement, get in touch with me and we'll add it in. Now, out of that grew a whole concept, and the internet has created a way for it to happen, and it's called Wikinomics. You understand what a wiki is. It's a collection of knowledge. And the internet allows people to pool their knowledge together effectively and in such a way that the sum of the knowledge is greater than the sum of the individual parts.
Absolutely.
And this is Wikinomics at work right now, as we see it. And you will be able to see the development, except that if you put your money down, you'll be able to see the development from inside. Fantastic, eh?
I've never seen anyone do it. I've never in this particular
not in this business, no, but it's
I've never seen anyone, any manufacturer involve their customer base to this level. And
you haven't been on our Discord, Luke.
I know. But that's what they're selling. They're selling that experience. And if you're a Halifax enthusiast or a Halifax modeler that wants to build the Halifax, this is priceless. It's absolutely, it's very, very clever. Very.
So there are, I was going to say, there are a couple of companies I know that do this open source, whereby they put out, we want to do this, and if you've got any information, happy, forward it to us. But in terms of actually monetizing it, effectively, this is the first time on a major scale. I mean, there's lots of places that we talk about that do this sort of crowdfunding, whatever you want to call it. But I think where Kotare's got the sweet spot is they're organizing people in a good way. They're offering good value for money, as we've discussed, but they're also offering a fairly firm delivery time because of the company and the reputation that they have. Now, there's another company, now I do mostly ships, but there's a company called 3D Wild that do a lot of fantastic 3D printing. Yeah. But their delivery time is completely up the chute. They don't make their time very often, and then they'll go over and basically go, "Where's my model?" When sort of go, "Oh well, it's shipping," or it's it's so they produce probably for the ship world in details for some of the stuff, certainly probably Kotare level detail, but their main business model issue is they can't meet their delivery times. Whereas Kotare, every time it's announced something, it's accurate, it's going to be good, it's going to be well engineered in terms of the buildability as well, and they deliver on time. or if they're not going to deliver, they're open and honest and say there's going to be a delay. And I think those are key metrics that you have to have if you're crowdfunding, because you have to build that trust. No trust, no investors, because it's just democratizing investors effectively.
Could I just say though, it's all well and good saying that. Again, devil's advocate here. They've already done 2 kits, and they're easy research-wise to do. This is a totally different beast.
But not to that accuracy. They've come in and they are the most accurate kits, and that's what they're selling at. They're not marketing these as a product that is you buy it off the shelf, you build it. These are nearly museum quality level models and museum researched, and that's they're not looking at starter kits. They're not looking at bringing in kids or adults back in the hobby. They are in the diehards, and they're setting their market and going, yeah, you like Tamiya quality? That's nice. Do you like, do you want the research on top of that? That's us. We will do certain subjects, but we will do them the best, and nothing will come close to it.
And
that's what they've done.
I also think they are the first manufacturer, please correct me if I'm wrong, and I know that Zinzan will know this, I think they're the first manufacturer to ever give you the lines on the Zeus fasteners for the engine covers and the decals that go on the exhaust manifolds for a Spitfire.
Yeah, no one else.
Anyone else has ever done that, and now other manufacturers are jumping on the bandwagon.
Research.
I think it's very easy for us to sit here as modelers and say that it's easy to design a Spitfire. I'm sure Will would have a completely different take on that, because he has designed a Spitfire, albeit at a much smaller scale. But I don't think the design process is as easy or as straightforward as perhaps us non-designers might think it is.
Yeah. Well, to give you a flavour, Brian, for those who don't know, Brian Wall, who designed our Spitfire 109, he was the lead designer at Wingnut before Wingnut was disbanded. So he came and started the project with me, and then his old colleagues went off to form Kotare. So there's a lot of shared DNA in both our companies, which is kind of cool. That's why I want them to do well. Brian designed those 2 in about a month. He just smashed them out. Like, granted, they're not horribly complicated kits. There are only a few parts. The shapes are well documented. There's lots of good plans out there. What took the time was the stenciling and the markings. And on early Spitfires, that is no joke. And I look at any Mark 1 Spitfire kit, with the exception of definitely Kotare and some of Edwards, and maybe some of the most recent Airfix stuff, but again, that's not Mark 1. But in terms of purely Mark 1 Spitfires, hardly anyone's got it right, because the level of research involved, like, I had to handwrite letters back and forth to Paul Lucas, who's probably the leading historian on RAF aircraft colours of the Second World War alive at this point, to like justify our decisions of paint call-outs on the instructions for like the undersides. It's RAF Sky. Yeah, but what colour was that in June 19? There were guidelines, and you can argue about it on Brit Modeler all day. But the fact is, it's like he ended up sending me a print of a painting of some ducks flying over a pond at dawn with like a sky, like a dawn sky. And he said, any shade in the sky is RAF Sky. And it went from kind of a light blue to a duck egg blue to sort of like a pea green at the bottom. And I was like, oh, fair enough. And yeah, when it was the stenciling, like I think you mentioned just now, the stencils on the exhaust, there is, to my knowledge, perhaps N3200 now is probably the most correct Mark 1 Spitfire we've got, because it was restored. But like the one in the Science Museum, for example, if you're looking at the stencils for the paints, like, those are not right for a Mark 1 Spitfire. Those are later RAF paints that it would have been repainted in and re-stenciled in. And you've got to be going in, and this is where like Mark Postlethwaite and his team at Wing Leader are incredibly valuable, because they have photos where you can really see, we can just about see the W there, which means it's this particular paint or this particular code. And then you look it up and you write to Paul Lucas, and he says, yes, that's definitely the right code for that squadron at this point in July 1940. Like, you can get quite far into it before you hit diminishing returns when you're researching things.
And that's one of the beauties of Kotare. Kotare and Wing Leader are like this. Yeah.
Huge advantage.
Always produce a fantastic book of about 75 pages, and they get the expert that's got all the photographs, and it's absolutely like the best. Wartime images, some color wartime images, and there's never any bullshit. And the beauty of Wing Leader, I wrote to them when I first bought do you remember the first Patois the Polish guy that did the Dam Buster book, the hardcover one, and you open it up and it's all CAD. It's wrong. This is just wrong. That's not right. This isn't right. That's wrong. Blah 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 blah. And they've come back with another book and corrected it all. And it's just wonderful. This Halifax
doesn't depend on scale.
That comes with that Halifax kit is going to be the Halifax Bible.
Yeah. The interesting thing that I've written about this a little bit, but I've alluded to it before. Museum keepers and curators are now becoming or modelers, if you like, model designers, and the wiki is now becoming like museum curators in the sense that they play their part in preserving history properly and as it was, so that future generations can see it. This is a brilliant way of doing it. It's another piece of value. This is the preservation of history, everyone. I think it's so important that we, in these days where history is uniformly rewritten to suit whoever wants to have it suit them these days. Model builders, model manufacturers, and museum curators, and the writers of books like the Wing Leader publications all play their part in this.
Yeah,
they do it together as one big team. Well, congratulations to the first 1,000 people. You're going to be part of that team too. Well done.
Project Halifax.
Could I just jump in there, because to be honest with you, the chat is absolutely blazing tonight, and I feel that we should give it a little bit of I think. Just quickly, Nigel, James Carnahan, thank you for joining us. We were discussing the 1 to 48 HK Lank. Is this a good kit equivalent to Kotare's level of detail in your opinion?
Oh, no.
You don't?
That was a very short answer.
Because isn't it their Lancaster, the 148 Lancaster is the best one on the market? Did you not say that once in one of the chats, that HK model's 148 Lancaster is the bee's knees?
The HK models Lancaster 148 scale is the best 148 scale plastic kit in 48 scale of Lancaster.
Yeah.
It's inaccuracies. The Tamiya kit is actually more accurate, but it's got raised panel lines, no rivets. The engines are a bastard to build. The best, if you want to build a Lancaster, there is no doubt, Moss is going to love this, the best Lancaster kit out there at the moment for accuracy and ease of build is the 172nd scale Airfix.
Yeah. But that's been stated for a long time, though, hasn't it? It's a really good model.
But to use the analogy of the 148 HK Lank, and Neil's going to hate me for saying this, but I don't mind. I speak the truth. Compared to what Kotare models were produced with the Halifax and the HK Lank, we're talking about a Rolex versus Timex. They both tell the time. Yeah.
That's a good. I like that. I'll keep that one. I'm going to use that one in my next book. Hugh Gordon, but everyone paying the same, so surely each customer would assume they are well enough qualified to have some input. Listen, at the end of the day, the final decision will always be that designer. That is it. You may say that this should have a rivet here, or it should have some sort of fasten here, but but once they pull all that information together, there's no way on earth that designer is going to change just because of your one opinion. Because
I think
even
they'll be selective.
If you talk to the Airfix guys, You know, those designers, I remember, you know, they went to design this tooling, that they had 5 A4 sheets of paper where the errors were, because they said this. So the designer went through and redesigned it and focused on the errors to make sure they were perfect. But after that, if the designer made a choice about something, the researcher, we had nothing more to say about it, because it, you know, he said this is the way we have to do it because of this wouldn't work, or you wouldn't get that kind of detail in the wing, if you see what I mean.
I think it's difficult in this hobby because we encounter the opposite quite often. But it's down to the maturity of the people that are investing to understand, okay, you might love the Halifax and you might know a fair bit about it, but there's going to be someone somewhere else who knows more than you do.
Yeah.
And you've got to have the maturity and almost the emotional detachment to go, you know what, this guy or girl knows what they're talking about this particular issue. We're going to go with them, and if the designer can factor that in, and I would like to think that most people that are going to invest in this project, and I'm not one of them, so I haven't got any skin in the game at all.
No.
I would like to think that everyone that's going to invest in this project will have that level of maturity to be able.
And also, in the most extreme circumstance, they can walk away. They can take their cash out up until shipping. So if they're truly that dissatisfied, they can take their cash out.
It's not a pay to play.
No,
that's not what it is. You're paying to be part of the journey, but you're not paying to have an equal say, the same as the other 7,000 people. That's not what you do it.
You'll be a contributor, like how it works when we put stuff out on our Discord. Because essentially, what we're doing, exactly what Kotare is doing, we just do it informally. We've never pitched that as part of the product, which we might have to think about doing, because this is.
I was going to say, I bet you're thinking about it now.
Yeah, people are clearly into the idea, but we have a small number of people who are like super fans, and they're brilliant, and they've got all the books that I don't have, and maybe they're out of print, maybe they've got bits of old Spitfire that they've collected, with flecks of paint on it or something crazy that I don't have access to just going to a museum. And what I've found is that, like you said, Luke, generally the kind of person who's going to pre-order this and want to be involved is going to be the more mature and introspective type who wants to contribute, but knows that ultimately this is a business project that's going to result in a product that has to meet the demands and the needs of many people, not just 6 people who talk a lot. So there are going to have to be some compromises, and we've never had any problems with that. So what we found is that people come in and they say, I was looking through this book. I'll give you an example. In our dogfight set, we had Gerald Stapleton. Is it Stapleton? Yeah, it must be. His Spitfire, nobody could tell what the squadron codes were, and there is a number of photos of that famous dogfight between him and Franz von Vera, who's arguably the very well-known pilot, the one that got away. So there's lots of paintings of that event, that action over the sky, and they all have the squadron codes done differently because nobody really knows. But one of our guys was digging through an old edition of Stapme's autobiography and found a very, very, very grainy photo of his aircraft that I think had a forced landing with another pilot only a week or 2 after the action, Franz von Vera, and is enough to show us that on the starboard side of the fuselage, the codes are the way around that we've put them. And I wouldn't have found that if it wasn't for this person who was just on our Discord, really into the project, absolutely wanted to be a part of it, and we were welcoming the input and the enthusiasm. And there he has this photo that he's turned up that has probably been lost to the annals of history, without which the product could not be as good as we wanted it to be. And to address one of the comments I saw earlier, I can't remember who posted it, sorry, but it was about like, this is just, to paraphrase, it was something like, this is a way to make the research process cheaper. I couldn't disagree more, to be honest. It's not a cost-cutting measure, it is a quality improvement measure. It is, because it's going to cost the same regardless, but this way, by pooling all those resources, those brains, that enthusiasm together, even though they're, the designer and the contributor are different roles, it will result in exactly what you've mentioned there about it being the Louis Vuitton of model kits. And it absolutely needs that. And that's why bringing people into it, those early adopters, those champions, is such a smart idea, because it will result in a better kit for everyone after those 1,000 people have had this amazing experience that they want to pay to have. You know, nobody else is being forced to pay it. You know, they want to have that experience. And after that, everyone else benefits.
Can I quickly jump in? Jim, it says here, the MD at Kotare has said why they are doing a Mark II. He replied to this and other questions on Brit Modeler. Could you just put in the chat then what he said? Because I can't get onto Brit Modeler here, and I don't think it'd be fair for me to do that. So if there's anything that he has said on Brit Modeler, could you just copy it across into the, if you want to have a quick look at Brit Modeler while we're in the background, just tell me what he's actually saying, the MD, about why they picked the Mark II, etc. That'll be really interesting. Thanks. So, as I said,
I've actually asked on the Kotare website. They've asked, you know, should they do one set of engines, two sets of engines, three sets of engines, whatever. So they're kind of really opening the floodgates.
Yeah, I was just going to.
Anybody else on here? Is anybody else other than me taking the plunge?
No.
Because for me, Nige,
Jim sent me the link, and I took the plunge on Thursday morning.
On the Kotare Halifax. Yeah. As soon as I'm able to here in the States, absolutely.
So So I tell you where I stand on this. I would be happy to pay the 200 quid in 3 years' time for the kit. That's me. It doesn't bother me the rest of the, you know. For me, when it comes out in 3 years' time, I will probably put my money where my mouth is and buy it. That's how I look at it. The whole thing for me about being
that's not what they're selling.
Moss, can I say something? You're going to hate me. I want to say something, and you're going to hate me for this.
Yeah.
If Airfix launched today, that they were going to release a 124 scale Bearcat.
I said that earlier. Yeah.
You put £100 down to be part of the first 1,000 to receive that kit. You would be promoting the shit out of it.
I get that. That's what I just said to you. This is what I was saying. The Halifax doesn't do it for me.
I think
I've got no interest in the Halifax whatsoever.
I think on this, what's very important is the value that it gives each individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kotare are basically very clever in this, in that they are generating value for slightly different sectors of each modelling community.
Yep.
Where do some people feel that they get the value out of contributing to this? By providing the finance to get the tool at the end. That's how they feel contributing. Others will feel that actually I can contribute in the way of giving guidance, advice, research. They feel part of the process. They feel that they want to have that value. You know, again, others may go, I don't have any value in actually giving research or providing money for the kit. I'll still provide it because they want it, but they can give it in a business sense of, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? That, you know, value is different to each people, and I think that plays also on your part, Moz.
Yeah.
Whereby your value is not in, you can appreciate the technical beauty of what there is, but there's no value for you in it because it's not something you do. Whereas, however, Airfix do a Bearcat, you're like a rat up a drain pipe and you're gone. Yeah, because the value for you is the fact that you could possibly contribute to a Bearcat, get a Bearcat, make an accurate Bearcat, make Airfix a success. And that is also, those all apply to any of these. And I think those are the key things Kickstarters have, is they always provide fantastic value. They target it at a specific range.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the focus.
It's the focus. You know,
Yeah.
Kickstarter ship, if they did a Vanguard or something, or any British ship, that's going to be the main value most people will add. You know, they'll see that. And for aircraft,
but
there's a wider range.
I reckon I'm going to be that. I'm going to be in the 40%ers here. That when Kotare do put it on the shelf, I will buy it.
Yeah, that's completely normal though. That's the hobby funnel as we refer to it, because you got like if you think about your journey through the hobby, right? You start off with maybe your Airfix starter kit. Most people fall out of the funnel right there. They never build another kit, and that's why your entry level products are so important. Is because you're going to shift a lot of them. But as you move down and more people get less serious, or maybe they have kids, they leave the hobby, whatever. But eventually you're left with the very point of the funnel, which is like your super dedicated, highly skilled modeler who appreciates and is willing to pay for incredible levels of research, fidelity, and care by a manufacturer. And you can absolutely target with laser focus, like you were saying, that very bottom of the hobby funnel. And if you can meet their needs, you can make a lot of money and you can make a lot of people happy, which for me as a manufacturer, that's the dream. Like we just finished a Kickstarter. It was only a small one, but I made I made 4 types of Scottish alumina hopper wagon for railways, right? Now, for those of you who don't know, alumina is one of the stages that bauxite goes through. It gets turned into alumina, then it goes to a smelter and gets turned into your beer can, right? So these things have been running in Scotland for about 100 years. Who the hell cares? Apparently, 60 people who are willing to give me $5,000 to make them. 60 people, £5,000. I mean, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that, like, if you target those people properly, if you make them aware of your project and you involve them with it, which I did through like railway modeling Facebook groups and stuff like that, and Scottish modelers who talk at shows, and they've wanted these things for decades and nobody's made them, and I've said, yeah, all right, I'll make them. They've helped me with research. They've sent me photos. Oh my God, photos of these things are rare as hen's teeth. Like, without those modelers, I could have never made them. So it's like a miniature version again of what Kotare's done here, and that's why I think that this is going to be a storming success. Now, well, Moz, what you're saying, you're going to buy it when it comes out.
Yeah,
that's brilliant, and that's completely expected because you're further down the sales funnel. It's kind of inverse. If you start with a small number of people and it broadens out, the less risk there is and the more reviews there are, the more proof there is that this is a good product. So they'll be anticipating that, and they'll love to have you on board at that stage. And I don't think that they would be. I mean, I know from my perspective from crowdfunding, I never take it personally when people say at this stage this isn't for me, because I totally get that, and it happens to me all the time. Like, there's loads of products that I see Kickstarters for that I think, when that comes out, I'll buy it. Like that cool little camping grill, I don't want it now, but in a year when it's on the shelves, sure, I'll buy it. And that's just part of the course, and it's a sign of a successful crowdfunding cycle.
As I said, it was just the fact that I'm going to wait, and I don't think that makes me any less a Kotare customer than the person who puts the pre-order up. But if they go for that pre-order, they're going to be involved with all that. And to me, like I said, the Halifax does nothing for me. And you're right. If Airfix said we're going to do a Bearcat, which they fucking won't, because I bet there's less people want a Bearcat than want a Halifax. You know what I mean? But the Bearcat is my passion, and it's like, if you like, I was talking. My friend Kim build flankers, dodgy subject, touchy subject because it's Russian.
Beautiful.
But if you stand beside a flanker as they're flying past, your balls go inside you and your heart melts because of that sound. And I get the same with the Bearcat. Not many people have sat there and watched the Bearcat fly across them. The sound outweighs anything from a Merlin engine. It is a beautiful thing. And if you speak to the pilot at Duxford, who flies all the American planes, the one he loves the most is that Bearcat. But no one has experienced
Bristol
that.
Centaurus all the way.
Pardon?
Bristol Centaurus engine all the way in a Sea Fury. Sorry.
Okay.
Has anyone been to the Duxford flying evening?
Pardon?
You ever been to the Duxford flying evening?
I have. No, not me, but I've been there when they filmed years ago when the Bearcat flew.
Yeah, they have this sort of evening air show. We go because it's good for the kids, because it's not like a heavy day out. It's just in the evening, you take a dinner and picnic, and it's only about 4 or 5 hours. It's perfect. But you're right. Seeing that Bearcat go over with the sun setting, like the way you described the visceral experience of that in your body is I totally get that. And again, you've nailed it. That's why you have such a powerful connection to that aircraft. And the same people have that kind of level of connection to the Halifax, and that's who Kotare is selling to.
Yeah.
So at least
Well,
you've got your
what I'm
line
trying
for
to
your crowdfunder now, Moz.
Well, but Airfix won't do it because they look. I've always said this, and I must do the video on it. That Airfix are a very small team, considering a lot of model manufacturers. They choose their horses wisely on how much you're going to get out of a kit. And I think that, and there can be passion projects. I understand that. The Halifax, obviously, is a passion project for the MD of Kotare, because he said that, he feels that the choice of the Mark II is felt. And it says here, because the men who died trying to do a job in the Mark II need recognition. All for that. Obviously, if one comes out 200 quid, of course I'm going to buy it and probably have a go at building it, because but as I said, the whole idea, the experience, it doesn't fulfill me, and I'd rather be that. It could even be more. Just looking at the comments now, because you've got to remember that we are, we're obviously content creators, or we do a lot of scale models, so we may look at scale modeling that's slightly different to the average Joe out there. Because I've done a poll, and at the moment 70% have said no to pre-ordering that Halifax, and only 30% have said yes. I know it's a very small pool of people, but I'm just saying, it's that idea of pre-ordering something that is not even guaranteed. There's nothing on paper yet. They haven't drawn a line on the paper yet. They've just put out, this is what we're thinking of doing. And you want to put your money in that, fine. I'm waiting until we've got it at least. If the CAD images come back and the model looks, I may consider them, but I won't be in that first 1,000. In fact, I probably won't be in the first 5,000. I'll probably be at the tail end of the 7,000 that's left.
Yeah. But I think this is exactly to the point of, depending on where you are in the cycle for these Kickstarters, depends on how much risk you want to take. For you want to see some CAD files, you want to see some fresh money. Whereas others, so for the initial cash boost, they're going to get the diehards. Once it starts progressing, people start seeing CAD images, people start seeing, possibly test shots. They go, oh, this is a more realistic prospect. Right, I'm ready to put my pre-order money. Because I think the psychological change that happens.
I'm inclined towards the thought that this is not a vanity project. This is not I know, let's do this. Look at the money that's been spent on this already.
Yeah.
There's been money invested in this behind the scenes already. It's just that you haven't seen it yet. That doesn't mean it hasn't been spent. I think they've been reckoning on this for quite some time, and they've now decided to go public. And they're not surrendering a commercial advantage. They're not, weeing on the seat or anything like that. They're simply saying, this is what we plan to do. And you know us, and it's going to be good, and we're going to make the best we can. They've spent money already.
Yeah, I think it is a little bit, though, of laying down the gauntlet, Zinzan, a little bit, because of how many 148 Halifaxes could you have on the market? You could probably have one more at half the price and less detail, say like a Hong Kong models one or something. But if, for example, at that size, someone went, right, we're going to invest in a new tool, and because of the costings, it's going to be nearer to 150, give or take. Yeah, that's going to be too close to the Kotare. And majority of people go, I'll get the Kotare, not the cheaper price one. And I think they are sort of saying, this is what we're doing. By the way, you can chance your arm if any other companies who wish to do this, but this is ours. Keep away, lads. Because I think if they were truly under wraps, they wouldn't say anything, and they would just go, boom, 2028, here it is.
I can't agree with this idea that people have of this is somebody saying, oh no, we're going to do it, so you stay away, as if they have some.
Oh, it definitely is that, Zinzad. Don't be fooled by that. It's definitely.
I'm not being fooled. I'm taking a pragmatic approach to this, in the sense that, and I appreciate what you say. It's a fair point. It's a good challenge, but I take this from a pragmatic perspective that nobody owns an aeroplane in that way.
No.
So if anybody wants to do this, if they've got some money floating around, I mean, you know, you could win the Euro lottery. What is it, 80-odd million quid or something, and you might decide to do this.
Yeah.
So off you trot to a Chinese
Yeah, like
manufacturer.
Nigel has.
Say, yeah, give me a handy page Halifax and sod the cost. And they say, yes, that'll be X £1,000. And you say, thank you very much, because you're dealing with a tiny bit of your stack.
And I think I do agree with you, Zinzana. I don't think they're putting a flag in the ground, because I don't think, like Nigel, Timex and Rolex, they both make things that tell the time. But I don't think Rolex are overly concerned that Timex are releasing a new watch. I don't think they are, because what they're doing is such a premium product. The same as Rifle models in this arena do some fantastic 35th scale Challenger 2 tanks. They're very, very good. They couldn't give a monkeys if Airfix turn around and say, we're going to release a Challenger 2 tank in 35th scale.
Because
you're not comparing eggs with eggs. The Rifle models product is always going to be the Rolex of the Challenger 2 in 35th scale.
Yeah.
And
so Kotare don't really care if HK bring out one half the price in 18 months' time. They're not bothered.
Look, we've only got to go back about, is it 3-4 years, when every man and his dog brought out a King Tiger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, I think it was just after that, every man and his dog brought out a Panther. And then every man and his dog brought out a Tiger 1.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I think the slight difference is that with a Halifax at that scale, there's quite a bit of market saturation, even with 2 at that price point. So the tooling, you know, the cost to get it back. I mean, I just think the market, there's not enough demand for 2 really. For 1 at that scale, yeah, probably 2 you're pushing it.
But don't you think, Kotare have done a really clever thing?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
They're dipping their toe in the water, aren't they?
Yeah, they're basically doing a no cost, because, not being funny, if Kotare is saying now, it's likely they're probably, to some extent, seeking out what if Hong Kong are going to suddenly go, right, by the way, we've got one coming as well. Because there could be a reaction like that, because they would be the most likely competitor, having done a 48 Lancaster. But I think it is a little bit. It's not quite
137
going around telling everyone how great they are.
HK did, because it was announced at the same time as the Tamiya one was.
Yeah, it does bring forth that Would them declaring their interest in doing a Halifax, would it put other manufacturers off building one? Because if you think over the years, I don't think Tamiya would have done their F-35B until they had seen how well Italeri did with sales of that one. And they reboxed Italeri's ones as well. And I think that's what happens a lot of the time as well. Companies wait for somebody to bring something out and then see how well it sells and then try to do better. Now,
but I don't think you're comparing eggs with eggs.
Why don't you think I'm comparing eggs with eggs? Because it's
because what Kotare are offering is the journey.
Mm-hmm.
So if HK models bring out a Halifax in 18 months' time in 48 scale, well, we all know it's not going to be as good. We all know that.
And it's not going to happen.
But they're not offering what Kotare are offering. They're not offering the journey. That's what they're doing.
Which company was that? Sorry?
HK models.
Yeah. So if HK models bring one out in 18 months' time and it's half the price of the Kotare one, because they've waited to see what the uptake is of this project for Kotare, like you're saying, Tamiya did with the F-35, etc. And other companies have done with Tiger One, King Tigers, Panthers. See how well they sell, then everyone brings one out.
Yeah.
If HK do that, they're offering a different product. Because Kotare are offering
I
the
get that,
journey.
Yeah, I get that.
They could bring out the model because they think, oh, well, unexpectedly, there's a lot of interest in the Halifax in 48 scale. So we'll design one, bring it out quicker and half the price. But it's a completely different product because what Kotare are offering is the journey and the involvement. Like Ben said, that value that's attached to that for the individual consumer. Firstly, it's slightly different for everyone, but it's huge. And if HK Models bring one out in 18 months' time for 120 quid, they're unable to offer that value. And that's where Kotare have sealed up that market, definitely.
Well, as I said, I like playing the devil's advocate in all this anyway. So I'm putting it out there. But I will say that I don't think any other company could do this, but Kotare could. I'm going to say that. I don't. Airfix couldn't do it. Crumbs, they've had a club membership.
I think they could.
Years.
Yeah.
I think most major brands could, because for example, Lego do it. Lego do it with Lego Ideas, whereby you can submit what you want, and then whoever gets the most vote, it will then be taken to a panel and then done. So it's I think that's a perfect model to show when it's done correctly.
No, that's not quite true. They can do stuff within the realms of Lego, as in they will never do a Spitfire in Lego. They wouldn't do anything warlike.
Yeah, but Moz, they're taking their product, asking their community what they want, and then the community are voting on it. Yeah, it's very much still the same. You could do a Kickstarter of the same model. Yeah, of the same type of going community. What do you want? And then they do, whatever gets the highest vote over the year will then become a tooling within the next 2 years.
And there is the difference. And there is the difference between one and the other. One is a volume manufacturer. The other is a quality manufacturer. Both have made a different choice. They've decided to either be the best or sell the most.
Yeah. And that is it. Timex and Rolex. That is the best analogy ever.
And that's where Tamiya had come in, because they can be the best and sell the most.
Yeah,
that's what makes them such a fantastic.
Good. Just putting this out there. Handley Page is a licensed brand through British Aerospace. Could they say no to Kotare doing this, and that would be the end?
I'm sure behind.
No, they won't.
I've got experience with this actually. BAE, in my experience, are very model company friendly. Their words to me were to the effect of models are fantastically good publicity and good public relations. Like, it helps us to, it's another way for them to like be involved with the country whose defense they contribute to. So I'm sure that if Kotare reached out to BAE Systems like I did about the Queen Elizabeth carrier like 10 years ago now, I never went through with it, but I got permission to do that, and then all they said is, when you've got a prototype, we want to see it and make sure that it's good enough, and also if you use any crests, then you have to get special permission. But I wasn't going to use them anyway. But if it is a licensed trademark, I don't think that's a concern. I think that
that was just a question I got asked. That was all. My emails here.
There are different companies that are funny about it. Like, as a manufacturer dealing, like Boeing got in touch with me out of the blue and said, "Oh, if you ever want to do any Boeing models, here's a form you need to fill in." And so I filled it in and sent it back. Yeah, and they were like, how good is that, right? And we've got Northrop Grumman as well. Like, they're very protective of their IP, but they're not jealous of their IP. They don't guard it jealously. They want people to engage with them. They want companies to come in and give them free good press, basically. And I can't blame them. But if they don't lock down their IP, if they don't defend it, if somebody does like a Tomcat without permission to use the Northrop Grumman or Lockheed, whatever, they will send you a cease and desist, because if they don't, then they lose. They are unable to defend those IPs from a real threat. So it pays to be proactive.
It's the same with the Navy, where I work for with the IPR. They're exactly the same. Any logos, brands, so Airfix, when they did those Navy boxings, probably 10 years ago now?
Yeah.
That was done. I mean, the Navy, for example, is always happy with them. Airfix, I just don't think has ever come back because they would have had a short-term agreement for so many years, and then they would have had to go back onto contract for it.
Yeah.
But again, like you say, in our experience, or certainly my experience, there's never huge amounts of cash sometimes that's like made out. Most places are pretty happy to work with their IPR because it's a marketing asset. Like you say, as long as they get a prototype, they might even ask for a couple of subjects to have in their offices or whatever. Yeah. And then normally they're happy.
Yeah. As long as you've gone through them and respected their IP, they're more than happy to work with you. Did you have a question for me there, Nigel?
I did, yeah. Can you just answer me from your side of things? I've never understood why, like with Tamiya car kits. Now, Tamiya car kits are some of the best on the planet. And yet, all the latest releases, they haven't paid the license, so they can't have Goodyear on the tires. They can't have Goodyear decals. They can't have Pirelli decals.
Yeah.
So now those kits look quite bare. You know, the latest release of the Fiat 131 doesn't have Cinzano, doesn't have Pirelli, doesn't have anything on it. Mm-hmm. Why on earth would Pirelli want to charge Tamiya a fortune to put their logo on some of the best car kits in the world?
Right. The only answer to that I can suggest, and this is purely conjecture, is that they don't think it's worth the hours that their legal team would build a company to write up an agreement. They're giving you the bugger off price. Whereas evidently Boeing is like, yes, please sort this guy out. You know, so it's a matter of choice for each individual company. So where some companies are literally getting in contact with people proactively who've not even expressed an interest in engaging them yet. And I mean, I would, but I wasn't ready to. But then, you've got Pirelli as a corporate culture. They might feel very differently about their IP. They might think it's not worth the legal team's billable hours to deal with small potatoes. Like
they also may have other agreements as well. To which they have exclusivity. So, for example, Pirelli I think Pirelli is marked on like the Barago diecast cars. Yes. So Pirelli may have an exclusive deal with Barago for that being used on any model car.
Yes,
you know, assembly or diecast.
Trademark category is what you're saying there, I think, Ben.
More or less.
The trademark is filed within a particular product category, so like models and games, for example. And it may well be that because the trademark has been given to Barago and it's in that trademark category, they then can't give it to anyone else, even if they wanted to. I'm not sure whether that's, it's obviously not a problem for Boeing and Northrop Grumman and who else? The aircraft ones seem all right, basically, but who knows? We can only speculate. But you're absolutely right; it is an issue.
The last kits you get on the F-35, there's like a little chrome sticker in there. It's an official Boeing product.
Yeah, every Boeing license they give you those stickers to put on the kits. And it's nice. It's a nice little sticker.
It's a beautiful sticker.
Yeah, and even their oldest. And the thing is, the crazy thing is if it won't be news to you guys, but if you look at the family tree of American aerospace companies, the number of mergers that have gone through. So not only does Boeing own Boeing, it also owns McDonnell Douglas. And you go far enough back, I don't know where Fairchild Republic, but again, it was Fairchild and Republic. And it's just a series of mergers, basically going down into Lockheed Martin and Boeing. And they own everything. And you have to license everything, going back to the antiquity of aviation. But at least they're not like,
It's definitely one. Just looking at Scalemates now, and the last real tooling of Halifax was Revell in 2011. And that's an awful kit, isn't it? That's a very inaccurate, poorly
built. I've never owned it. Wasn't it quite a good kit?
I don't think it was. They've only ever released. They haven't. Well, put it like this, right? If it was a good tooling, they released it in 2011. Then they re-released it in 2015. Now Revell, when they spend money on a tooling, they're banging it out for a good few times after they've done it. Same as like Airfix do, don't they?
No, we disagree there. The 32nd scale bombers have never come back.
But they were Matchbox.
No, the 32nd scale, Junkers 88.
Yeah, but if they didn't sell well, they wouldn't.
They did sell well. They sold very, very well. They sell very well now for over £100.
But they haven't released it for like, you know, for 11 years or 10 years, really. 2015 was the last time a 1/72nd scale Halifax Mark III it was, B Mark III.
No, I always thought the Revell, Halifax, and the Shackleton were very good kits. That's what I thought. I don't know. I'll stand to be corrected. I could be completely wrong again.
The Shackleton is very good. But it's got no interior in it.
In 7/2 scale.
Which is understandable because it'll be a tail seat if it's got bloody the interior in it. So.
Just right. So I'm just going through. We had quite a few. I started a few just to quickly go through. Just going back. The problem with wikis is lack of peer review. Who's to say the informant knew what they were talking about? That's a good shout. And the Canadians flew the Mark II in the early raids of the war, had a high casualty rate. It's a tribute to them. That's what Jim was saying about what the MD was talking about. You can crowdsource the documents, drawings, details, but you need to curate that and channel that input. And that will be a very small group of people.
True. Very true.
Yeah. It is interesting that the B2 is the aircraft of choice because it gives Kotare the choice of 1, 2, 3, or 4 engines in the kit. Or dare I even say no engines? Well, I suppose that's a bit of a shout. Whether they do fork, but knowing Kotare with this, then I assume that they would put for it. Well, I don't know because the Spitfire doesn't come with an engine, never does the Messerschmitt, does it?
They know it's been a point of feedback. They know it's something people have expressed a desire for as a further point of quality of the kit. They may listen to that this time if they can afford to. Who knows?
That's what I mean. It's surely once you set a bar, say £140 or whatever it is, which is their price, not including VAT and taxes and everything else. I just say it. At the end of the day, 3 years down the line, you know, things could change. Pricing could go up.
And also,
everything could go up.
Most of the detail differences will come down to the fact that were built at multiple aircraft manufacturers.
What will happen? I kind of feel like I know Richard personally. I've met him at Telford. I've got not hundreds but tens of emails that we've exchanged, and I know from a fact. We've had discussions about Lancasters, and I've said I think this is like this, and an email comes back the next day with like 9 pictures to show that I could be right, but I'm probably not, and that's what it's like. And I think this is what he's looking for now. He wants 100 people that think they know all about the Halifax to point out certain things, and he can sift through that, strain it through, and come up with the reality. Because he will want to make the most accurate airplane model kit ever made. That is his goal every time they bring out a new tool. That will be his goal. And I can assure you this kit will not be released in 2028. It's probably going to go 2029 because he will reject the test shots, short shots. I was thinking he'll reject the test shots until it's perfect.
Yeah. The only issue if you start slipping on timelines, even by a year, so that's 25% in theory, give or take.
They put themselves under pressure.
That can harm in terms of
goodwill,
Kickstarters for the future and goodwill.
It does. We've been through that, and it does.
Let's see what happens. Maybe they're thinking they can do 227, so they're saying 28 to allow for Richard's delays. But let's just see how much the very, very late 109K4 harms them. I don't think that's going to harm them very much at all.
But they haven't put money into it, though, Nigel. That's the difference.
Yeah, there's no money attached in May apart from a standardized pre-order, which will have standard terms and conditions.
Yeah. I don't care. Basically, I've given them 200 odd quid of my money, and it's sat in a bank account not earning any interest. And at any point, I can get it all back. So, you know.
Yeah.
And in the meantime,
You were saying something, Will, you were saying something about being late to a crowdfunder.
Oh yeah, we had a hell of a time when we were delivering our first pre-orders. Like we were saying, that we took on the website after the first Kickstarter didn't fund, and we took all those pre-orders on the website. It took us, I think that was 2021. I don't think that we actually sent kits out until January 2023. And I was dreading it because, you know, we just had delay after delay, and it was just inexperience, really. It was the first time, you know, we'd done any of this. Like, Brian was involved in a great company. We'd never dealt with the logistics side of things, you know. So we were all learning as we went. But because we were very accessible on multiple platforms, so me or Mike we're always at the end of an email or Facebook message or an Instagram message or Discord or Brit Modeler. You know, we were very conscientious about making sure people could get to us for reassurance and updates. And of course, we'd send out emails, but people don't always read emails. We'd send out, you know, updates wherever we could. But you just have to cast a very wide net with communications. And, you know, at the first grumbling on a forum, somebody else might say, oh, well, they already addressed that in the update 2 weeks ago. Didn't you get it? And that instantly diffuses the situation. So again, it's another skill that is unique to crowdfunding that you have to get good at is keeping backers informed. And it's not easy. It's not as simple as just sending out a MailChimp email or posting an update on your Kickstarter. Like this Kickstarter we've just done, I basically bungled the backer survey, so it doesn't work for half the backers because I didn't enter a 0 on a couple of the fields. Just a stupid mistake. So it doesn't work. And I've sent out updates, but I've still had people messaging me saying like, "Oh, I can't fill out the survey; it's broken." You know, and you have to be patient and not just paste a copy-pasted canned reply. You have to take the time to engage that person. You know, 2 minutes of your day to reassure them, like, "Don't worry. It's with Kickstarter support. We're going to reset the survey. You can do it all again. It'll be a bit of a pain for everyone, but it'll be better this way." Because it's the first time I've ever used that functionality. In 2021, well, the last one, even 2022 or 23, the Kickstarter survey wasn't even an option. They've only just launched it, and we're all getting used to it. And there's, you know, mistakes happen. But if you can get good at making yourself available, keeping people informed, and making them feel like you take their concerns seriously, it gets a lot easier to manage from a goodwill perspective. And people really are very, very patient. Like, modelers are the best customers any business in any industry could hope for. Like, yeah, sometimes they pick some annoying nits that you were forced into doing, and that's part of the course. But for the most part, if you're having problems with production, as long as you keep them informed and as long as you answer their questions, they're happy to, like, just keep you going, even if you're a year, 18 months late. You know, that you're a good bunch.
And that's where Kotare have nailed it, I think, in the way they've done it, because everyone that's involved and has invested money in this project is going to be very, should it work the way they're saying it's going to work, they're going to be very well informed of design delays, production delays, whatever it may be. They've got some small ownership over that entire project, and that
I've had an email telling me the designer, I think his name's Mark, he will be in touch in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So they've nailed it. They've nailed that communication, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as people read their emails, they'll be fine.
Right. It's 1 minute to 10. We've banged on at this for 2 hours.
Can I just say, this little lady here is a year old today.
Really?
That's cool.
What's that? Who is it?
Just Dottie.
So for your birthday, you can go and piss on one of those Fiat 131 seats you got lying around.
She should get some bacon or
The
something.
birthday toy was delivered, and I didn't take it out of the packet for her. I'm letting her do it herself.
Oh, they're brilliant. Their balls are brilliant. They just last and last and last.
Yeah.
I beg to differ. Give one to my dog. You've got about 45 seconds.
Right.
I got 45 seconds with your dog.
He'll smash house bricks in all.
Folks, I want to thank the 250 people we had in tonight watching this. So it's been a very, very good debate. I think I put out what what I thought, and you've all come back to me, and I got no complaints about it. I will just say though that I did actually thought it was a bit of a shock. We did a poll. Would you pre-order this 1 to 48 Kotare Halifax? 71% said no. Yes, 28%. I thought it'd be more 50-50 split. Personally,
I thought it was 5%. I thought it'd be way lower. Yeah. Typical conversion rate for any e-commerce between 1 and 2%. It's crazy though.
Yeah.
30% is like an astronomical success if it actually translated into sales. Even if it's 10%.
Yeah, as I said, would you pre-order this? I still think that there's a lot more meat to come on this bone, and I think that if they really are serious about wanting people to pre-order this kit, they will be releasing some sort of drawing or some sort of CAD image to say we get this far. I still cannot believe they've just jumped in there. I'm just saying they've jumped in here on a whim and said, "Oh, we think there's a market here for the Halifax." I think they would have done some pretty good market research.
But that's where they'll maintain that exclusivity, because unless you're one of the investors, you ain't going to see it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to subscribe to my channel, boss, videos out of what information I get.
Yeah, do it.
The only thing I will say just quickly is it did appear on Handley the other day. Now, I don't know if that was a mistake or not for a pre-order.
Well, they can't, because it says you can only buy it from the Kotare website.
But that's what I thought. But on Handley it appeared, and you could order it. I don't know if it's still there.
Is it on there now? Have a look. Someone.
It's on Tiger Hobbies as well. You can pre-order it on Tiger Hobbies. Yeah.
Wow. So
because Tiger Hobbies are now going to be once again the importer of Kotare models.
But isn't it maybe some wording that can be interpreted in different ways? The way I interpret their website is that you can only be part of this process through their website.
Yeah.
Once the kit is produced, then you may be able to, distributors, wholesalers are going to bring that in. But if you want to be part of the process, you can only do that by pre-ordering through the Kotare website. That's the way I read it.
With their first kit, the Mark 1A mid that they brought out, you ordered directly through them. You got 3D printed studs.
I see that.
And a very nice picture. If you went through distribution, you just got a standard kit.
You got the kit. Yeah. That's the way I read it. Yeah.
Fair play.
That's fine. Right. Anyway, folks, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Please, after the show, if you've got any more questions you want to pass on to Will, put them in the comments box below, and etc. We'll be back next Monday for another Airfix and Chill, and I think we'll go on to talk about gimmicks, because we're going to get onto that. But we've been so enthralled with this Kotare thing, I think we pretty much overran it.
Can't we do tariffs next week?
No, we're not doing that again for a while.
Oh, you said it again.
Now you know why I wasn't on last week.
Yeah, I'll get that. I even had to write a community post explaining our actions. All right, lads. Anyway, cheers, Will, again for joining us.
Thanks again for having me.
Cheers, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.